Today is our first ever Education on Air conference. We're super excited about it. Today, educators are holding 46 Hangouts on Air, leading discussions on a number of topics in education technology. We really want to thank all the presenters for giving their time to this and for all of you for watching. So all of our presenters have early access to Hangouts on Air, which is a technology that allows you to broadcast and record Hangouts. So to watch any of the sessions today, you simply go to the presenters Google Plus page, and you can find a list of all the sessions and links to presenters Google Plus pages on the conference website, which is sites.google.com/site/EduOnAir. That's sites.google.com/site.EduOnAir. And without further ado, this is Eric Curts. He's the Technology Director for North Canton City Schools in Northeast Ohio, and he's been using Google Apps for EDU for 2 years. And today he'll be here to talk about the paperless classroom with Google Docs.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Teresa. Before we get going, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. So just for a quick reminder, we want to make sure everybody mutes their mics. In the top right-hand corner of the Hangout window, you'll see a little microphone icon there. If you just give that a click, then you can go ahead and turn your mic off, and then you can turn it back on whenever you do need to speak. So just catching a little bit of feedback there. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are we good? Hey, I think we sound okay. Everybody's good. Fantastic. Sorry about that. But yeah, Teresa, thanks so much for the introduction. First of all, real quick, I'm going to say I feel a little self-conscious here because the way the camera's catching me, it looks like I dressed down today in a white T-shirt. But no, it's a wonderful Education on Air T-shirt provided by the wonderful folks at Google. So thank you guys so much for this great T-shirt. I normally dress a little bit better for my job here, but I wanted to dress up like this for today for the conference. Real quick, this session is on the paperless classroom with Google Docs. Because these sessions are being done through Hangouts on Air, we want them to be more conversational. So if I was giving a normal presentation, it'd be pretty much me up front, you know, blah, 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 talking in a big group of people out there, and a lot more of step-by-step instruction and things like that, because you can't interact so much when it's me up front and 300 people sitting out in the audience. So we really do want to make this be a lot more conversational today. So please do post questions or comments in the stream, and the people who are in the Hangout here with me today, please throw them in the chat window as well. But with all that said, I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what the approach is going to be today. The idea is I'm going to take my normal presentation and just shrink it down real small and just hit the main points. Just going to go through the main topics, not teaching you how to do all these things, but just basically introducing you to the ideas. And then I'm going to hope that's going to leave us all the rest of the time for you to say, okay, please go into more detail on this. Well, what about that? And so as I go through the beginning of this, which is going to be a lot more of me just, you know, going blah, 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 then as soon as I get through that, I'm hoping then we can engage in a lot of conversation about that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And let's make sure that I pick the right one. I've got 4 desktops up here, so I'm sitting at flight control at the moment, and I could land the space shuttle from my computer with all these screens around me. But here's what I wanted to share. Good, so that is correct. Everything I'm talking about today can be found online, and I went ahead and made a tiny URL. So tinyurl.com/Curts18, Curts18. That will get you to a website where this presentation is there, and the 18-page handout or whatever that goes along with it that has all of the nitty-gritty details. So things that you may not catch, I pretty much guarantee most all of that should be in those resources that are there. So with that said, please, you know, if you want to, go ahead and shoot over to that tinyurl.com/Curts18, and that will get you to those resources as well. So real quick, who I am, Teresa mentioned I'm the Director of Technology at North Canton Schools. I've been there 20 years, a husband, a father, 4 kids from preschool to pre-med, and I'm a geek. Love all things geeky and nerdy. Beyond that, I'll mention just real quick a couple of quick things. I do run a website called Apps User Group, and I think I probably have that already brought up here for you. Let me go ahead and show you that. There we go. There it is, appsusergroup.org, and this is a Google Apps support site for folks who are, using Google Apps for education or just interested in it, or seasoned pros. It's a great place to go to read articles and get resources, and a great discussion forum with hundreds of people who can ask questions and answer questions and help out. So I would definitely encourage, if you're in any way involved in Google Apps, totally take advantage of all the stuff Google provides, but I also encourage you to plug into appsusergroup.org. Next up, I'm also a co-host of a podcast, the State of Tech podcast. That's at thestateoftech.org. And that's myself, Sean Beavers, and Eric Griffith, who are also presenting at the Education on Air conference this year. And we do a bi-weekly podcast all about educational technology. We've done one on Chromebooks, we've done on BYOD, Paperless Classroom, all kinds of things like that. It's a video podcast and an audio podcast, so I'd encourage people to check that out at thestateoftech.org. And the last thing I'll mention is that if you like this conference today, which how could you not, this is going to be great, then we're going to be doing a similar e-conference in June at pd.thestateoftech.org. So if you use the address pd.thestateoftech.org, you'll see our website up there. It's going to be June 16th, so it's a Saturday. It'll be from noon to 5, very similar format using Hangouts as well. So definitely check that out. We are taking proposals for presenters up until May 11th for that one. So that gives you a little bit of information about who I am, but let's go ahead and get into our topic today, and that is using Google Docs to go paperless. Well, basically, I'm not going to tell you the secret. It's not like this is how you do it. This is how you go paperless with Google Docs. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing a bunch of tools, a bunch of different ideas, 10 to be exact. Some of them you may know about, others you may not. Some you may be aware of, but just haven't quite used them in this fashion before. And so these are 10 things that you can take them, mix them together, maybe use 3 of them or 2 of them or 5 of them, or use one to help out another to help in that transition, because it's going to be a continuum. You're not just going to flip a switch and be totally paperless. It's going to be something where you transition over time into a paperless classroom. So I'm going to run through these. Like I said, it's going to be speed skating here at this point. Don't expect that you'll be like, knowing exactly how to do the things I'm talking about as much as be aware of those. All right. First thing, it's important to think about just naming your documents and folders. If you're going to go paperless, that means you're going to be sharing. Things are going to be going back and forth between you and your students. And so there's no right answer to this, but it's important to have something that you agree upon. So whether it's within your class or within your school district, wherever the case might be, pick some kind of convention. We usually recommend something that identifies the year, the class period, the name of the person, and what the thing is they're sharing, like 2011-07-Smith-John-research paper or something like that. What's important is that the student can look at it and you can look at it, and you both have no confusion about what this document is or that folder is. So that's an important thing to think about first off. Second, it's also important to realize that there are actually 3 different levels of sharing. Great thing about Google Docs, everything's in the cloud. Because it's in the cloud, you can share it with anybody. But that just doesn't mean that you're opening it wide up for somebody to get into your stuff. You can decide person by person how much access they have. And so you can give them edit rights so that they can change things. You can give them view rights so it's just read-only. Now keep in mind, if they can view it, they can make a copy of it. Okay, so they can take whatever they're viewing and they can go file, make a copy, and get a copy off of that. But there is another one that sometimes people aren't aware of, and that's can comment. You can give that right, which allows people to view it. They can't change your document or your presentation, but they can throw comments in on the side that aren't going to print out with the document, but allow you to have a conversation going on back and forth. So you do have different levels in which you can share. Okay, third thing, this is the vanilla sharing, basically what we're all kind of familiar with, the big blue share button, okay? And there's really 2 ways you can share something with the big blue share button. And the first one is if you want to share with specific people. Now, the idea behind this is you know who the people are, and you can identify them by an email address or by an email distribution list. In our school, we've set up email lists for all the students, for all the teachers, by grade level, by this, by that. So I can easily share a document with all of the students in the 8th grade or with all of the students in period 2 of Mr. Jones's class. We've got listservs set up through Google Groups for all of those. So if you can name the people, if you can identify, I know who this person is, you can hit share, hit add people, boom, throw them in and share that document with them. Now this is great for one-shot deals if you just want to share something off with somebody real quick. It's not necessarily the best solution if you and your students are going to be doing this all year long, because you're going to get a mess of documents showing up, and the students are going to have to run through the sharing process every single time. There are other options. We'll see that in just a few slides. The next one is, again, the big blue link, but it's the big blue share button. But in this case, it's not sharing with specific people. It's sharing the document as a link. Now, this is important. If you're going to share it with an audience that you can't identify, you can't say for sure, I know these people's email addresses. It could be that, it's anybody who wants to look at the document. It could be, the parents of the students, and you don't have a way to easily identify them. In that case, you're going to hit share, and then you're going to go in and hit the change button to change the privacy settings for that, and you're going to get a link. You're going to get some crazy long link for that document that you want to share, at which point you want to think about how to share that link. Maybe you'll email it out to people. Maybe you'll post it on your website. Maybe you'll put that link inside another document with a whole bunch of links, and you'll share that document. And that document will be like a table of contents listing links to all sorts of shared documents. Or turn it into a QR code and then post that somewhere, and people can use their phone, click with the scanner, and boom, they're at that document. Or use a URL shortener like TinyURL or Bitly, or Google has one as well that you can use. So you want to consider those things. Okay, now we're going to transition to the normal sharing option from the big blue share button to using folders. Now, I was teasing Teresa earlier. These used to be folders, and then they became collections. Now they're folders again. Google has been spying on my help guides, and as soon as I get them all updated, they are going to be changing them again. And I think they're going to call them pickles or something. I don't know what they're calling them next, but at the moment they're called folders again. And basically, a folder is like you'd think, you can put things in it, but it's a lot more like Gmail labels. The idea with a folder in Google Docs is you can take any document and you can link it to multiple folders. So you can put it in a folder for period 2, but you can also put it in a folder for pre-algebra and put it in a folder for, my presentations or something. It doesn't make copies of it. It just links it to each of them. There's still just one version of that file. Okay? Now, using folders, you could do things like this. Here's our 5th point, using folders as a staff handout folder. Basically, this is great if you need to give information out to your students that you would like to be read-only. I mean, maybe it's like a study guide or a handout or a template that you want them to make a copy of and work off of. So basically what you do is you make a folder, name it something that makes sense, share that to the kids, but make it view-only, can view, and then the kids will end up getting an email that gives them a link to that folder. They can click that, it'll open that folder up for them, and at that point they'll have that folder available in their shared documents, and they would be able to get to it. Anything you drop in that folder, now they'll have. You can say, hey kids, the new study guide, it's out there in my Google Docs handouts folder, and they know to go to their Google Drive, open up your shared folder, and there they will have it. It can go the other way. Use folders as student turn-in folders. So let's kind of reverse it. What you could do is have students create folders that they drop things in, and then you as a teacher can open those folders up to collect their information and be able to look at it. Now in a case like this, pretty similar to before, have them create a folder, name it something that makes sense, but I would encourage you to have the kids give you at least comment rights. Probably can edit rights would be best. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a whole mess of folders getting shared with you. You may have 125 kids that you teach throughout your day. Well, what you want to do is you want to organize those. So, and we can get into great detail on any of this, so I'm hoping your gears are turning while I'm talking about this so you can tell me what you want me to dig into here once I finish my spiel. But basically what you can do is you can create your own subfolders, a folder for the school year, a folder for each period, and you can drag and drop the kids' folders into those and make a really nice tree structure where all of the students' folders are nicely nested inside of year folders and period folders. And then anytime a student needs to turn something in, all they have to do is drag and drop it into their turn-in folder, and and now it's available to you. All right? Okay, next, number 7. A neat twist on this idea is to use Google Forms, and it's not for the sharing, it's for the management of the sharing. And the way that this works is basically, as a teacher, you would make a Google form, and you'd have things like last name, first name, assignment title, and link for the assignment. Okay, so you create this Google form, and you share that form link with the students so they all have access to that. The students then, they share their document like normal. So they just do a normal however they, like they take it and they drag and they drop it into the turn-in folder, or they use the big blue share link, and they share it with you. But then they go another step, and they copy the web address of that document that they've shared, and they go to your form, and they fill in your form with that link and submit it. Now, what's the big deal about that? Well, here's what's nice now. You and I as a teacher can open up that spreadsheet, and you will see all of the assignments that have been officially submitted. And they're time-stamped, so you can see when they've been submitted. And if you want to turn it on, if you're an Apps for Ed domain, you can say you want it to collect the student's username as well. So it's another level of authentication. Yes, that really was that student turning this in. But then here's a great thing. All the links are there. So you can very quickly just go down the line and click, 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 and immediately open up those documents, which is even faster than going through the folders, which is still nice to have the folders, the turn-in folders, because they're nicely organized. But then after you look at the documents, remember, in a spreadsheet from a form, you can add your own notes. As long as you don't mess up the data itself to the right of that in a column, you could have a column for the grade or a checkoff column to say, I've graded that one. And so you can give yourself notes that you've done that. You can also filter by assignment if you want to grade them all the same ones at a time, and you can just hide or delete things after you don't need them anymore. So that's a nice add-on for management purposes that can be helpful. Number 8, using templates. Templates are another great way to go paperless because they can allow you to give the students the framework for a document or a presentation or whatever it is that you want them to be doing. They can't change the original. They just get their own copy that they can edit. We found this to be useful, especially with young or inexperienced students. We did some fourth grade, some Google presentations at the fourth grade in one of our elementaries, and it was the first time they'd ever experienced it. And so rather than saying, here's a blank presentation, go at it, this was for a book talk that they were doing. We gave them a template that had the basics in there. It had, well, this slide is for the author, and this slide is for the setting, and it has sort of the structure there, and that helped guide them through, which was very nice. But it also could be for any student just when the time is limited. We had an AP class here at our high school where they wanted to do a brochure, and yeah, there's really no publisher equivalent in Google Docs. And so I said, well, okay, if you want to do something like a brochure, let's use Google Presentations, because you can put things anywhere on the slides you want to. It's kind of like desktop publishing. But instead of having the kids all go in and have to create the boxes where all the stuff would go in the brochure, the teacher and I worked together and we created a template for them that had all of the different boxes already there. And of course, they could change them any way they want, but it saved them time. They were able to just get in and get busy filling in the content. Okay, number 9, comments are another great thing in the paperless process. If you are having students turn things in through their turn-in folder, it might be a project that goes on for a while. Maybe it's a paper they're writing, and so you get the rough draft, and then the student makes changes to it, and there's the second draft, and they make some more changes, and then here's the final copy. Well, you can use comments in Google Docs to be able to communicate back and forth with that student. Comments show up in the right-hand column, and you can have them be general comments just on the whole document, or you can actually attach them to specific portions of that document, like a sentence or a word or a paragraph. And then the students can comment back on the comments you've left, and you can have a conversation, getting feedback, getting clarification, maybe just use that to put the grade on the final product. That's fine as well. So comments are a great tool to use. And lastly, revision history. When going paperless, you're probably just going to have one copy of any document, the one I just described. If a student's writing a term paper, you're not going to be able to pull out, oh, here's their rough draft, here's their second copy, here's their third copy. Let's compare them. Because it's all digital, every time they make a change to that document. Well, what you can do with Google is you can go back and look at the history of any document, and you can see all the changes that have been made to it. And that will allow you to see, did they take my advice? Did they update that section? Or if it's group work, who did what? It'll color code it for each of the different users so you can see who did what in that process. Just a few days ago, I had posted this picture I had seen online of some students who used this to their benefit. Some student had complained about the grade he had gotten, and his team members went in and looked at the history of the document and found out that in his sum total, the student had changed the word combined to in combination and removed the words this makes. And that is everything they had done in the entire project. And they said they calculated that to be 0.55% of all the work done. And they said, I think you should be glad with your grade. So I guess it can even help students as well as they work through projects. Okay, so I know that was a lot of stuff just thrown out at you real fast there. But I want to give you the main ideas of going paperless, of what you might want to consider. So with that said, let's go ahead and maybe start chatting. What questions do you have? What comments? Is there something in there that you would like me to go a little bit more detailed into and show you some examples of, well, here's what a turn-in folder looks like, or here's how we've used forms to collect the student assignments, or whatever the case might be. So I will pause, take a breath, and Teresa, if you want to help moderate that, or if you've been watching, kind of let me know what's up.
Yeah, sure. So the first question I just saw come in from Yutaka Hitomi. She wanted to know what about grading papers? What's the best way to add annotations without writing the paper for the student? Do you have any advice on that?
So the question is, when grading papers, what's the best way to add annotations? Well, I mean, certainly I would use the comment feature where you put the comments in the margins using the commenting feature. Let me go ahead and show what that would look like. I'll grab my paperless handout here, and we'll just take a look at that. Let me go ahead and screen share that back up there for you. So this is the actual handout, and we've got a bunch of people looking at it. Hey, look at all those people looking at it. Yeah, the idea is, if you're not familiar with how the commenting works, I could go through something a student has written, and I could find a section where I need to give them some feedback, whether it's a paragraph or a sentence or whatever. So, maybe I'll just grab actually, let me go to the commenting section. That would be appropriate. I'll go to the section where I talk about comments. That makes a little bit more sense. There we go. And so I could say, here we want to make a change or something. I could highlight that, and then I could go to Insert, and I could say I want to insert a comment. And what it does is it allows me to come over here and, put something in, just a test, but, whoops, there we go. And so I can leave a comment about that. Now that student, when they come in to take a look at their document, they would be able to now, come here, click on this, see my comment, read my comment. They could reply to it, and then they could, of course, make the change, whatever it is they need to make here. Now what's important to realize is this doesn't alter the actual printed document. If you were to go to print this, this will not be highlighted, and these comments are not going to print out with it here on the side. So you're in no way harming the original document with the student, and you're also not going in and changing things and writing it for them like you had mentioned. And so I would encourage you to use the comment feature as much as possible for that. At least that's one idea. If there's anybody else here in the Hangout, I know you guys are here to learn, but I hope you're here to share as well. So feel free to jump in if you've got an idea.
Just a real quick comment on that, on the comments, is it's a great way for you to have your students do peer editing as well, to have them share out with others.
Yes.
I have one teacher that makes them share with 2 or 3 others before they turn it into her, and she's able to see all those other comments as well. So she can give the original author a grade, and then she can give the other students a grade for their peer editing.
Yeah, Roland, that is excellent. Thank you for mentioning that. It goes back to that idea. Remember, there's 3 levels of sharing. There's the editing, the viewing, and the commenting. And you think, well, peer editing, that would be great, but, well, I don't want the kids messing with each other's work. Well, that's right. Don't give them edit rights. But, well, if I just want to give them view rights, then how do they do the peer editing? No, you give them the can comment option, and you're exactly right. They're not going to damage the original document, but they can put in all of their peer editing comments there on the side. Thanks for bringing that up. Good point.
I also use the comments, and I do a lot of my correcting in Google Docs, but the way I keep them separate is I will highlight the work that they need to correct, and then in the comments I'll tell them what to do. They have to make the actual corrections. And when we do larger work, I collaborate with another teacher. So it goes, the comments come up as different colors. So if I'm grading the technology piece of it, and then the social studies teacher goes in and grades the content on the particular country they're working on, the students see who has corrected each different piece of it. And when they reply to it, it sends an email to each one of us, the person who put that comment in, and we find that really useful.
Yeah, that's an important point. I did not mention that comments do act much like comments in like a blog post. And so yes, you can receive emails anytime things are added to the comments and have that conversation continue in email as well, which is great. All right, other questions that have popped up?
Well, we have a bunch of commenters on the side asking about your folder structure. If you can show how your folders are set up and what needs to be shared with who, from Jonathan Oldenburg.
Sure thing. Let's go ahead and I'll switch back over to sharing the desktop here. And again, I'm not saying this is the way to do it. I mean, this is merely an option, you know, you find what works for you. That, you know, that's the thing about Google Docs and all Google apps. They're tools. And sometimes I'm surprised when people say, oh, here's a way I came up, and I'm going, wow, I never even thought of that. What a neat way to use that tool. So going back to the folder structure idea, I'll show you real quick the idea of the handout folder and the turn-in folders. So let's say that I want to do a handout folder. Basically, here I am now. I've converted over to my drive, so if you haven't converted to my drive yet, it'll probably say my docs or something like that. I've already forgotten. It's already out of my mind. It's all drive now. But I could come in here, and you'll notice in my drive I've got all these different folders that I've created under here. So all I have to do is go to my drive, and then I can either click Create Folder, or I can use the folder button up here. Okay, so let's say I go into I've already done one earlier, so I'll just make up a new one. That's fine. I'll go to 2011 and I'll click there, and then I'll go ahead and I'll say I want to create a new folder. And so basically I'll create this one. I'll call it 2011. Whoops, 2011. We'll say it's like period 4, and we'll say it's Curts and it's handouts. And so basically, I have created this handouts folder. So in my drive, I've got a folder called 2011, and then inside of there, then I've got, actually, I could put that inside of my period folder, however you want to arrange it. But then I've got this handouts folder inside of there. Now, nobody's going to see this but me as far as the structure. So you do a structure that makes sense to you. Nobody's going to actually see your tree structure. But the point is, once I've created this handouts folder, what I want to do is I want to share it. Now, I can right-click on it and say share, or I can hover my mouse and click the little down arrow next to it and hit share. Either way, I want to get into the sharing screen, and here's where it's really up to you as to how you want to share it. You're either going to go in here and put in the names of who you're sharing it with. So if you do have listservs specific to your students, like we do, we're like stu dash, and then I could do you know, one of our teachers -04. I guess she doesn't have a fourth period, -01. So I could share that with all the first period students for one of our teachers, and that would go out to all of them. Well, you may not have a list built like that. So if you do, that's great. Otherwise, you could go up and you could just change the privacy setting and say, okay, I'm going to make this available to people in North Canton City Schools as long as they have this link, or anybody in the school district, no matter what, and then I'm going to have to provide that link to the kids. I'm going to have to let them know, here's the link you need to use to get into this folder. But let me go ahead and I'm just going to share it with my daughter's account. My daughter has been out of school for a while now. She's at Bowling Green, and I still keep using her account. So she was always my guinea pig all the way through. She said, Dad, what are you doing to my account again? I'm always in her account. I kept it around, so I continue to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and share, but what I would do is I would share it as can view, okay? Now, can comment's not an option for a folder because you can't comment on a folder. It's either edit rights or view rights. So I'm going to share it with one student, but you would share it with all of your students, and I'm going to say she can view that. So I'll go ahead and hit share and save, and I have now shared out that handouts folder with her or with all the students. Now I've got her logged in over here, so if we come over here and take a look, she should now get, and there it is, she has now gotten an email that says, I have shared this folder with you. She can click on that. It's going to open that up, and it's empty. There's nothing in it, but that's okay. That's certainly fine. But now she has access to that folder so that anytime I do drop something in it, she's going to have, I guess I could go to shared with me. There it is. She's going to have that handouts folder. So I could come back over here now, and I could say, okay, let's grab my paperless handout, and let me take this, and I'm going to go ahead and add this into my handouts folder. Now this might be worth mentioning. I don't want to get too technical here, but there is a difference between adding and moving. If you haven't noticed this, just be aware. If you click and drag anything, you are moving it. What that means is it's going to put it in that new folder, and it will remove it from any other folders it's in. Okay? Now, if you instead control-click on it, at least on a PC, I'm sure there's a Mac alternative to that, I can then control-click and drag, and that will let me add it instead. So it stays in all the other folders, but it gets added to this folder. And so now you'll see it's in all of these different folders. If I had moved it instead, it would have stripped off all the other labels and just put it in that one. Now, I can also right-click and say I want to organize it, which is a little safer sometimes. That way you can just check and uncheck what you want and have no fear that you're removing it from things it shouldn't be. Well, now if Chrissy goes over and opens up her Curts Handouts folder, there it is. It's in there. She can open up my document, but she can't, oh, hey, how about that? We've got an error. There we go. Sorry about that. Just refresh it. It's view only. She can make a copy of it. So if this was a template for her to work off of, fantastic. She can make a copy and start filling in her own information. Now let's go the other direction. Let me go back to being my daughter, and she needs to make a turn-in folder. Now, I've done this obviously earlier with some trainings I've done, but we'll just do it again real quick. So she would come here, and she's going to create some sort of a turn-in folder. So she'll come here, she'll hit create a new folder, and we'll call this 2011, and we'll do period 4, and we'll do Curts C, and we'll do turn-in. Okay, so there's her turn-in folder that she's created now. So now, anytime that she wants to give things to me, she's going to want to put things in that turn-in folder. Well, she needs to share that folder with me, so just like we did before, right-click, share, and she will go ahead and share that with me, and she will give me edit rights, and boom. Now that folder has been shared with me. If I come back over to my screen now, and if I go to items shared with me, and sort by share date, and there it is. So now 2011 period 4 Curts C turn-in sorted by date in the section that says shared with me. I can now grab her folder and I can put it in period 4. Now I can't, even though it says move, I'm not really moving it out of her stuff because it's her folder. It doesn't matter if I move it or add it, because if she owns it, I can't really actually move it out of her stuff. But now, underneath period 4, I have her turn-in folder. Well, what's going to happen, guys, is I would encourage you to go down to like a lab or have a bunch of computers early on in the school year, first couple days of school, and have your students all do this. Now, you're going to get a ton of folders showing up here. Well, just drag, 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 drag them over. And as long as they've named them well, it shouldn't be a problem. And so now, anytime that Chrissy needs to share something with me, so here's her turn-in folder for period 4, she could just go ahead and grab one of these documents, drop it in her turn-in folder, and now, if I go to grade my homework, I say, okay, let's open up 2011, let's open up period 4, let's go through the kids, and there it is. There's that document that's been turned into me. So that's a real quick look at using folders as handout and turn in. I say we can also throw that other layer of using a Google form as well. I can show you how that works if you're interested to see how that could also be used. But real quick, that's that.
Awesome. We do actually have a couple questions coming in from Google Plus also on showing how you use forms to collect student assignments. So if you want to show how you do that.
Sure, we'll go ahead and do that too. All right, let's go ahead and switch back over. All right, well, basically, let me start with my form itself. So let me find where I put my form. All right, time to show the amazing powers of search in Google. Hey, there it is. All right. All right, so here's the form that I created, and I'll go ahead and show you the live version of it so you can kind of see what it looks like. There's not much to see, really. Basically, it's just last name, first name, assignment title, and URL. Let me zoom in a little bit on this because I know that's kind of small for you guys to see there probably. So they're going to put in their last name, they're going to put in their first name, and then I'm using a drop down here. It's the choose from list option, and the reason I'm doing that is because if I just said, you guys type in your assignment title, 30 kids will type it in 30 different ways. I want to be able to sort and filter and so forth, so I'm going to specify the assignment title. And then I can change it anytime. I can go in and edit that form at any time and put in new assignment titles whenever I need to. And then here's the link that we need for them to put in there. Let me go ahead and copy that link so I don't lose this at the moment. All right, so that's what the form, let's zoom back out here. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's what the form looks like. So let's say I'm back, I'm being my daughter again, being a student, and she goes to that form. Now, how does she get to the form? Well, it's up to you. I mean, you can, make a tiny URL for it, make a QR code for it, email it out to the kids, but put it on your website. Hey guys, here's your period 1 form to turn in your assignment. So you need to make that link available to them somehow. But what she's going to do is she's going to say, okay, I need to turn in an assignment. Well, it's time for me to turn in, sample document 2. So she's going to turn that document in. So what's she going to do? Well, actually, which one did we just share? I think we just shared number 1. We'll do number 1. She just shared number 1. So keep in mind, the form does not replace the sharing. If they just give you the link and they haven't shared the form or they haven't shared the document with you, you're going to click the link, and it's going to say access denied. The form is just to help you manage it. That's all it's doing. So if I come in here, this document, we know she's already shared it with me, okay, because we saw it. She drag and dropped it into the shared turn-in folder. What she needs to do is come in here and grab this link. Either grab the link from the URL up here, or if she shared it by changing the privacy rights, she can grab the link from there. Either way, we basically need to grab the URL to the form, or to the document. So she has shared the document. It's in the turn-in folder. She's come here. She's grabbed the URL. She goes to the form, and she says, okay, last name Curts, first name Chrissy. This is the research paper she's been working on, and paste. There's the link to it. Submit. Boom. Okay, now basically she has done that to tell me I'm officially done. You may now grade this assignment. So now I come over here to my form. Let me unfilter this at the moment. All right, so I come over here and I'll zoom in again. Let's make this a little bit bigger for everybody. Come on, keep zooming. There we go. So now what I see is I see a timestamp of when it got turned in, which is very good. If you're saying, hey, this has to be officially turned in by a certain date or time, that's helpful. Now the username column, I didn't have that actually collecting it, but you could have that if with an apps for ed domain, you can tell it to collect the username automatically. I didn't in this example, just so anybody could get to it. Here's their last name, the first name, the assignment title as chosen in the form, and here's the URL link to it. Now at this point, all I have to do is I can just click on that link. It'll open it up in a new screen for me. And now I'm inside of that document. And I can go ahead and read her document. I can grade it. I can leave comments. I can do whatever I want to with it. And then when I'm done, I can go back to the form here. And I can say, she got an A on that. Or we'll give her an A+. She's been working hard. It's actually finals week for them at BGSU. So I'm going to root for her here and give her an A+ on her research paper. And I could have a column called done. I could have a column for notes that I put whatever I want in there. These columns over here, I made those. I mean, I didn't make them. I just clicked and typed in a description. As long as you don't move these columns around for the form, you can add whatever you want over here. That's no problem at all. And so this is a great way for me to be able to keep track of have I graded these. Now, if you get a bunch of kids, which you could have, 125 kids, whatever, you may say, well, that's an awful lot. I'm getting overwhelmed by all the stuff there. Well, keep in mind, you can turn on filtering. There's your filter button. And then you can say, just show me the assignments for Lab 15. I just want to see the Lab 15 assignments. And it'll filter them down to just that. Or no, show me all of them, but I just want to work on this student. Let's just see the ones that Curts has turned in. Okay, there's all of Curts' assignments. And then, like I said, you can also get rid of things afterwards. If you say, well, these are done, I don't need these anymore, these have all been graded, I can come in and highlight these, right-click, and hide the rows, or delete the rows. And I can just get those off of the screen so I don't have to worry about those anymore. So it's just an option for you to be able to track this. If you do one form for everybody, I'd throw in another column for period. If you do a form for each class period, then you wouldn't have to do that. But that gives you a little bit of an idea of what that looks like. All right.
So another Google Plus user, Darren, says, if teachers are sending small paper notes and reminders home with students, what's the best way to go paperless and send these? Through email to the family, stocks and groups? What about families having personal email addresses and not a My School account? Do you have any tips or suggestions for Darren?
Wow, I mean, and definitely folks in the Hangout too, if there's something you guys have done for this as well, please speak up. More than happy to hear from anybody here, but there's just so many options there. I mean, I know we're talking Google, but don't forget Twitter, don't forget things like that as well. Certainly that's a great way to be able to keep people in the loop on what's going on in school. But as far as Google goes, I would suggest a couple of things. If you're not using Google Sites, definitely start taking a look at that. It's just a wonderful tool for creating a class page, and that's a great way to be able to distribute information so that people can get to that very easily. Now, we do use Gmail. We do use the Google Apps Gmail for our parents, but it's kind of in a weird way. We have not given them school Gmail accounts. Instead, we used a Google form to collect their personal email addresses. So we put out a Google form and we said, hey parents, tell us, if you would like to get information from us, please give us your email address, give us your student's ID number and your email address. Once we got all of those, what we did was we imported those into our Google Groups. And so we have, just like you saw me typing in stu-whatever, we have pair- for parents. So like pair- MS is all the middle school parents, pair-03, all the third grade parents. And so we created Google Groups, and then we can send out emails that way so that it actually goes outside of our system and goes to their personal email addresses, because for the most part, parents probably don't want another email address to have to check. And yeah, you can create accounts for them and set up forwarding, but that's a bit of, there's a lot of stuff to jump through to make that happen. And so we haven't seen as much success with that as trying to make the barrier to entry as low as possible. And so that's what we have done. So I would encourage sites, and I would encourage Google Groups if you can do that. Other folks on the panel, something about helping make that transition? Anybody has ideas there? If not, that's okay. Or any other questions? I think we're probably getting low on time here.
So another user has, sounds like Tammy's typing a question. Or if not, Dave from Google Plus says, do you wish you had the ability to turn off students making a copy? Is there a way to work around that? Sometimes students modify documents that are not intended to be modified and share them out with misinformation.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Obviously, I can't speak to anything like with what Google's going to add in new features and stuff, but it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Here's what happens. When you start moving into the cloud, when you start moving into these new digital tools, it challenges the way we do things, and it makes us really rethink stuff. And so, this is a great chance to address, proper technology ethics and, what is right and wrong. Another quick example, I know it's not Google related, but we're a BYOD school district, and at least our high school is, and so students can bring their devices. That's another example of something that has challenged the way we do things. And so there have been some, issues with students twittering out, test questions and things like that after, they had, taken a test earlier in the day. Well, we've been doing that for 50 years, and we've been doing it forever. You walk out of class and you grab somebody in the hall and you say, hey, but now it's easier than ever. And so it's making us go, okay, we've got to rethink. Are we giving assessments that maybe need to be modified? Do we need to be giving different types of assessments that twittering out a question isn't going to threaten the quality of that assessment? So that would be my quick answer, is that no, there's really no way to stop people from making a copy of something. Instead, it's a teachable moment for us to really address with students, not just here's the technology, but are we integrating into our curriculum things about ethical usage and safety and things like that in the proper usage of technology.
Eric, couldn't we publish the document to the web and keep it as a private setting and then just send out the URL?
Yeah, if you don't want it to be a document like a shared Google Doc, but you want to make it published like a web page, that is correct.
Yeah, that might help in some situations depending on who asks that question.
Excellent suggestion. Very good. Whoop, I can't hear you, Teresa.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. So Christopher wants to know, do you have any advice on archiving files?
If you're talking about Google Docs, I guess there's several options now that you've got Google Drive. You have that option to sync everything now very, very, very easily from your Docs account down to your hard drive. And then at that point, you can employ whatever method you want for backing that up. So that's a fantastic new opportunity for us to be able to tap into. Another possibility is, I know there's a ton of services out there, so I'm not trying to endorse anyone in particular, but I'll just say that I know that Gaggle is a really nice service for archiving, and you usually think of them as archiving email, but they also do archiving of Docs, and they have confirmed that they will do archiving of Drive files. And it's a very low fee. It's very economical for schools. And so if that is something that you're interested in, they would be one of, I'm sure many options out there, but one that is certainly worth investigating.
Eric, I'd like to pose a question. I work on a military installation. We're a public school district, but we're on a military base. We've got a lot of mobility, kids moving in and out, and then I've got seniors about to leave in 30 days. How are you managing letting these kids take their documents with them? Are you telling them to get a private account and transfer ownership? And then does Google have any plans to allow students to migrate their own documents? With more and more of us using this, if one of my kids leaves and goes to Eric's district, I would love for them just to be able to scooch everything over to their new Google Apps for Education account.
Well, that's an excellent question, and I remember that was posed last year at the Ohio Goes Google conference, which is coming up in a week now, but a year ago we had the first one, and at that one some of the Googlers were so kind to join us, and they acknowledged that question as something that they get a lot, that's things people ask about, and had hoped that we could move toward something in the future to allow that sort of transfer to happen. At the moment, though, what we do is we have a document that we send out to all of them that basically says, here are your ways of taking your stuff with you. And so basically it just goes right down the line, and it lists out everything from email to calendar appointments to docs to your sites to everything, and it talks about here's all the different options. You can take these things and share them with another account and then make a copy of them. You can't change ownership, so you'd have to make a copy. Or you can download them, to your hard drive, or you can, and on and on and on. And then, of course, there's Google Takeout, which Google's done a whole lot to try to make it easier for you to be able to get your data out. So at the moment, we give them a document at the end of close to the end of the year to say, be thinking, if you want to take something with you, you have to start doing this.
Then the big question is, Eric, are you going to give us that document?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I can throw it on the same website that everything else is on. I mean, it's specific for our school district, so some of the stuff may not make sense, but it's all. I mean, the ideas are fine. So yeah, I'll be glad to throw that in there.
Yeah, and just to add from our side, it's definitely something that we're looking into and working on, but we don't have support to move something over or migrate all your documents right now. So we have another question come in from Claudia. She asks, do you have any tips on how to help students who don't have computers at home when you're attempting to go more paperless?
Well,
the tricky one.
Nope. Yeah, I mean, certainly there's a lot of things a school can do. You know, one thing would be teachers being aware of who has what and making sure that if there's free time during the day that, you know, those students have priority access to the computers that you have in school. And so it would not be a bad idea for teachers to be able to sort of you know, don't make a big deal about it, but try to, if it's just a Google form, you know, at the start of the year, hey, you know, tell me this, tell me that, what's your favorite, this, that, do you have a computer at home, you know, and just get an idea of who has what, so they're a little bit more sensitive to that and can sort of work with the kids on that. You know, beyond that, I see that Tammy mentioned in the comment stream there that if they are on free and reduced lunch, they might be able to get internet access for $10 a month. I don't know all the details on what Tammy's saying, but she's right. I've heard those sort of things that based on your community, take a look around. I know we have some programs in our community through like Goodwill and through some different companies that can get kids computers for free or at a really reduced rate. So it may be working in parallel with some social agencies as well to help out with that. And of course, you've always got the public library and things like that. But schools may also want to consider, is there a way to do some before school and after school hours where a lab could be, you know, available if students want to come in early or stay a little bit late? What's it going to take to get that manned? What do we have to do to have that happen? But that, I think, is something schools have to address and consider if they really want to continue pushing into the digital age. Anything else?
Any more questions from our guests in the Hangout? If not, it's close to time to wrap up, so.
All right.
Last Q&A. Okay.
Well, as people do their last thoughts there about stuff, just as a quick reminder, I'll have 3 more sessions coming up today, so if anybody wants to call a pizza place and have them send a pizza over, that'd be awesome. But no, I've got one on creating comic strips with Google presentations, one on rolling out Google Apps for a school district, and another one on using Google Forms for everything, like a million things you can do with Google Forms. So those are coming up throughout the day. You can check on the site and see those, and hopefully get some more people to join. Other than that, just a reminder, please visit appsusergroup.org and plug into the community there, as well as please plug into your regional user groups and all the great resources Google has available. Check out the State of Tech podcast, and hopefully come to our e-conference June 16th when we try to replicate the amazing work Google has done here and learn from them. We'll let them blaze this trail and we'll follow behind. So.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much to Eric for presenting. That was really exciting, and I learned a couple of things myself. Thank you, everyone in the Hangout, for joining us, and everyone who's watching on the live stream. See you guys later.
All right. All right, so Teresa, I just hit end broadcast, and that's it. We good? All right, here we go. Bye, everybody.